blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains. Haters swerving cause they ain't ready for your final version. I'm never gonna give up. Fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah. Cause this is my road. Let's camera action, I'm ready to go. I'm never gonna give up. Fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah.
Good morning, everyone. This is the Tom Ficklin Show, and it's really a pleasure once again to be involved with WNHH 103.5 FM. We talk about it being a community radio station, but this community is not a locality based. We're actually a global show, a global station, because whatever we're talking about, it might be located from a GPS standpoint in New Haven or in Connecticut, or even in a particular neighborhood, but the issues are global. The issues are global in terms of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and how is that perceived and implemented and really manifested. So we'll talk, many of our shows focus on solutions, not just quantification, but solutions. So today, really a pleasure to kind of provide an update to folks in terms of what the Connecticut and InCK means, an update in terms of you're going to hear more about what this InCK thing is all about and what's new in our particular neighborhood, some specific neighborhoods here in New Haven. And my guests this morning are Melanie Versace, Executive Director, for the world, no, but Executive Director for the Clifford Beers Community Care Center, Jennifer Richmond, Project Director and Vice President of Population Health at Clifford Beers as well. Reverend Bonita Grubbs is with us, Executive Director for the Christian Community Action, and Shirley Ellis West with the Urban Community Alliance, as well as Giselle Carlotta McDonald, Project Access New Haven. And they're going to introduce themselves a little more. And also we're joined by Alice Corrigan, Community Health Organizer at Clifford Beers. A lot we want to cover. We have about 55 minutes, so we're going to not speed through, but really be cogent and concise. And we're going to kick off with everyone kind of introducing themselves a little further. And again, just wishing everyone a blessed holiday season. I don't think we can say that enough, regardless of what time it is of the year. Let's be prosperous, let's be helpful, let's be kind and compassionate. So who should go? Well, Melanie, maybe we'll start with Melanie, and then we'll just go through the line. Jennifer and Reverend Grubbs and Shirley and Giselle and Alice in terms of introducing yourselves.
Great. Good morning, Tom. I'm Melanie Versace. As you said, I'm the Executive Director of Clifford Beers Community Care Center, and very excited to talk today about the updates to InCK in New Haven. Jen?
Good morning, Tom. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. My name is Jennifer Richmond, and I'm the Vice President of Population Health at Clifford Beers, and I am the Project Director overseeing the Integrative Care for Kids grant. And I'll hand it over to Reverend Grubbs.
Yeah, I'm Bonita Grubbs, Director of Christian Community Action. It's a social service agency in New Haven. Glad to join all of you.
Would Ms. Shirley Ellis West like to share her?
Good morning. I'm Shirley Ellis West. I'm the Executive Director for Urban Community Alliance. Good. Happy to be here.
Giselle?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Giselle Carlotta McDonald. I'm the Executive Director of Project Access New Haven, and we are also a local nonprofit in New Haven that help uninsured and underserved patients with access to medical care and services. Thank you for having me.
And Alice Corrigan.
Alice Corrigan. I am a community health organizer, and from here on out, you'll hear us referred to as the CHOs, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Excellent. Let's jump in, ladies. We're throwing around some acronyms, but what are you up to? What is Connecticut CTNICK? What's that? Is it a new Coke, a new Pepsi? Is it a new Bitcoin? What's cooking here with the integrated care?
So sure, Tom, I'll start, and others please feel free to jump in. But Connecticut Integrative Care for Kids, also known as Connecticut InCK or CT InCK, is a new local service delivery state payment model initiative. really, it's intended to improve the quality of care for children and families using a whole family centered approach and strength-based approach for care coordination. Ultimately, it's really to help families navigate care in a seamless way. We have a certain group of members in the community that we're focusing on, children from 0 to 21 and pregnant and postpartum individuals up to 1 year after labor, and then also folks who are on Medicaid and also receiving Husky services, and that reside in 2 zip codes in New Haven, so 06510 and 06511. So those are the New Hallville, downtown Dwight, West River, Edgewood neighborhoods. And really, you know, we've really, I think what makes InCK and so special and is that it's about building relationships, it's about building trust, and it's really our partnerships and building partnerships have been the real key elements to InCK. As Alice mentioned, she is one of our community health organizers. And our community health organizers have been with us since the beginning, really building relationships in the community, building trust, and getting out there in the community in the neighborhoods and canvassing. And they are actually concluding sort of their first year of implementation and reaching out to members and assessing health needs for physical health needs, behavioral health needs, and social determinants of health needs or social needs. And our other partners, that many of them are here on this call, have been with us from the beginning. In our partnership council, have been part of our design groups and really helping to inform InCK. And we've learned so much from them that's been so vital. So we're just so excited to be on this journey with them. We have our partnership council, as I mentioned. We also partner with our statewide agencies. We partner with our administrative service organizations, which is Community Health Network of Connecticut, which is physical health, Beacon Health Options, and also Benny Care, which oversees the dental insurance for Medicaid. And we also have we have a parent advisory group who parents have been vital in informing this model and giving feedback, and as well as our learning collaborative, which launched back in June, which will be our InCK providers starting in January, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But one of the things, just to kind of talk about how our partnerships are so important and so vital in really building and informing this model, is one of the things that we heard in order to do this from our partners is that we needed practice transformation dollars. And so we've worked really hard to secure funds so that, you know, Christian Community Action and Urban Community Alliance and Project Access and the other InCK providers could hire intensive care coordinators. And so we're really excited that we were able to do that, and so that they can start to we can start to train these intensive care coordinators and really onboard them to the InCK model so they can start to provide care coordination services to families and members.
Fascinating. And I really appreciate, Jennifer, the macro context that you've just provided. And certainly if everybody didn't jot down what you've said, the shows are recorded. I say that's kind of tongue in cheek, but also I think the message that building synergy, building coordination, building really strong and productive relationships with so many folks and organizations is so key. You've thrown out this term, intensive care coordination, and oftentimes we have nonprofit speak, you have corporate speak, you have on the street speak. So what is this? What is intensive care? Kind of unpack this word and phrase, intensive care coordination, for me.
I would be happy to do that for you, Tom. So when we say intensive care coordination, we're putting the social determinants of health at the forefront of the conversation that we're having. It's not just helping families schedule appointments or coordinating appointments. It's all those in-between things that we don't see. And sometimes a lot of those unseen services are the obstacles that stop the families from getting the help that they need. So some examples of that are transportation. And I don't just mean, do you have a car or a bus pass? I mean, does the mom or dad have a stroller that fits maybe two kids? If Veo's picking them up for an appointment, can they fit the car seat? Is there a car seat already there? Do they need a car seat to get on the bus? Childcare, getting to an appointment for one child, but is the baby allowed to come?
Mhm.
Housing needs. Many of our families, there's housing insecurity. They may be in a house, but is it an appropriate housing? Are there enough bedrooms for the ages and genders for those kids? And those are things that an intensive care coordinator can help the family navigate. Um, Food securities, clothes, diapers. A big one is getting kids back to school, supplies, uniforms, being an advocate for the parent within the school system, being at those IEP 504 meetings.
But what's IOP for
I'm
what,
sorry,
what is that?
IEP. So an IEP is an individual educational plan that a child may be on,
Mhm.
or a 504 is a modification plan. And they would go to a meeting, a PPT, a planning and placement team. And that can be overwhelming for a parent. There's all these professionals there, OT people, speech, PT, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapists, counselors. Sometimes you're just there to hold the parent's hand and make it less intimidating. Um, an example could be you may have a family that has 4 kids. They're in 4 different schools across the city. A care coordinator can help the parent navigate that, work the school system, get those kids all in the same school. We address the social determinants of health. We're looking at best practices from other models that we've used in New Haven, such as wraparound. That's family centered, like Jen mentioned. The team surrounds the family and integrates their care for all of those things that I mentioned before. But more importantly, intensive care coordination, we're not just meeting the need, we're looking at the healthcare need of the family.
And what is like the sticking time or the relationship time? Is it limited to? Is it like a one-off, or do you stay with the person for a few months? Or
No, right now we're looking at, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, but 6 to 12 months, and I believe the family, if the need is still there, we reassess at 6 and 12 months depending on their level. And if the need is still there, my understanding is we would extend with the family.
great, great. And Giselle, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, you know what as I hear Alice, and you know, it brings me back to like the basics of, you know, peeling that onion, like peeling all the layers of need, and really keeping the family and the youth and that person that we're helping at the center. So what is it that they need? And, you know, I love the examples that you were given, Alice, of, you know, that could mean different things for the families that we serve. It could mean transportation, it could be language barriers, financial, housing, all of them together at the same time. So it's really that relationship of working with the family, and you know, really taking the stress as much as we can. That's why it's intense, because we're trying to take the stress. And Alice, you mentioned the hand holding, like really being there, and that being there might look very different for each family. And Tom, one thing I'm really enjoying and loving about this initiative is that we're looking at the best of the best. What does that look like? And it could be that with some families, we might need to be with them for 2 hours, 3 hours, and have those meetings at the school systems and sit down with the family and help them understand the forms that need to be filled out. What do they mean? And in some other families, it might mean that we check in, and we might be checking in over the phone and see how they're doing and being there for them when they need us. And the intensity is us taking that, you know, we know that families need a lot. Care coordination has been around for many years in many different ways, from the hospital and the health system to behavioral health to addressing social determinants of health needs. But this is looking at every aspect of it, and that's what's making it intense. And we want it to be very high touch, so that we are constantly checking in. Alice mentioned like the length is a long-term relationship that we're looking at, 6 months to 12 months and even longer if it's necessary. So it's very, very exciting to us, Tom. Those that have been doing
Hmm.
this type of service to the community and being able to address all of the needs for that family, it's huge.
Excellent. In terms of the excitement, I'm excited as well because I was somewhat, maybe not joking successfully, but just kind of going down memory lane a little bit before we came on air, that many of us on this call, including myself, have been involved with nonprofit initiatives that are no longer around. And I was thinking about maybe even doing the need for obituaries, kind of a reflective archaeological kind of standpoint about why some things thrive and some things seem to dissipate. But so let's jump in terms of what really are we trying to accomplish, and you know why, and the rationale. Why are we doing it? It's, solutions. Let's hear about what's driving us to make this world a better place.
So, as Alice and Giselle have been talking about care coordination, we know care coordination helps families, and all of the providers that are going to be providing the intensive care coordination services have been providing care coordination all along. And so really, InCK is about just, really we're trying to demonstrate this intensive model in a way, sort of a proof of concept, right? To be able to scale it across New Haven to other zip codes and hopefully ultimately the state. But again, ultimately, we're really trying to provide seamless care coordination across providers for members or for families and for children in a seamless way. We are going to be we're going to be starting in January of 2023 with our sort of next phase of implementation with our Learning Collaborative Early Adopter InCK providers, which we have 7 InCK providers who are going to be providing these intensive care coordination services. And our community health organizers are going to be really their sort of liaison, if you will, or their single point of contact, helping to sort out barriers or any challenges and support them in working with children and families. It's really to kind of demonstrate the intensive care coordination and have a proof of concept again, so that we can continue to build and scale. And ultimately, one of the other things around this is that all of these providers, these community-based organization providers, have been providing care coordination all along, right? And they're relying pretty much solely on grant funding. And so the big shift here is that these community-based organizations are now going to be able to get reimbursed with Medicaid dollars for that care coordination they've been providing.
Good.
So it's really, really exciting.
Good. Just wondering, Giselle or Reverend Grubbs or Shirley, Alice West, as Jennifer was speaking, if you have any thoughts in that regard.
So I think that, regardless as to what so in some, places called care coordination, here, urban community, we call it case management, parent advocates. I mean, there are a lot of labels that connect us to specifically what Giselle was just talking about under the role of care coordination. And I think, and I don't think, but many of the families that we see in the city, they come, the barriers and the challenges and the support look so very, very different depending on, who this family is. So, I circle back to the individual educational plans, the PPT process, very, very intimidating for a family based on many things, based on awareness or understanding of the information or how important it is to that child's educational program. So when that advocate, that case manager, or that care coordinator is in the room, he or she is not in the room to make decisions for me or to tell me what to do, but to prepare me and to help me to understand how important this process is to my child's educational program, whether it be a 504, or just, the IEP. So when I think about those things, and how we support families in our judicial systems, in our whether it be juvenile court or adult court, a father with child support, that needs to help with child support navigating, how we connect the father back to his family. All of these things are or meet the role of what I think when I think about care coordination, regardless as to what we call it.
Excellent. And Reverend Grubbs, I guess wondered also if you had any thoughts in this regard.
Well, I think I go back to how CCA started, and that was, I wasn't there at the time, but which is really trying to meet an emergent need, to handle a crisis. And while that's very, very important to the basic services that we offer, what we understand is that there's a next level of support that families need. And so our housing program at the shelter is one way in which we try to provide a place for folks who are in harm's way from a housing point of view. We took on the task of looking at, so what is really the next step? And the next step for us has been the New Hope Housing Program, because what we understand is that while we can do what we can do with not case managers, but family coaches, is to be able to surround the family with the supports and encouragement that they need in order to be able to take that next step and take better care of their families. So I think what we've done is offer a concentric circle of service delivery. Not just at the level of emergency, but what can we do beyond that to afford families the opportunity to become more stable than what they were before. And that involves, by the way, not just us providing services, but really working with other agencies in the community, because we don't have the expertise in every area possible. Shirley just talked about the Board of Education and the kinds of challenges and the kinds of activities and programs that they have to offer. It really is developing what I would describe as a community-based approach and a family-centric approach, because it doesn't make any sense to solve a problem that the family doesn't either know or doesn't want to solve, but really engage the family in the very process of really determining what their own destiny is. We have another part of the work, which is through our advocacy and education project, because empowerment is also a part of that, and having people use their voices to make change at the systemic level is important. So Mothers and Others for Justice is a group that's been around for many, many years, to be able to develop, use their voices to be able to demand change, because who better to be able to talk about what changes are important to make in our public systems than individuals who are recipients of services within the community. And finally, I think that having us really focus on what I'll describe as family-centered or person-centered service goes a long way towards really trying to not only help us to achieve our goals, that's secondary, but primarily that we leave the family better off than the way we found them.
That's right.
It's not entirely up to us. It's really up to the families and the support that we can offer, and the ways in which we can absolutely encourage families, because I'd rather have somebody free than in bondage any time of the day from a social point of view. Spiritual too, but that's a whole other conversation.
We'll have to have you back. We'll have to have you back, Reverend Grubbs.
Hey, that's right.
Yeah, it's past the collection plate now, and kind of gets. I just wondered if Alice or Giselle, if you might even have any stories that kind of continue, that can additionally amplify what Reverend Grubbs and Shirley have kind of indicated in terms of problems we're trying to solve.
I'm happy to jump in. Tom, I was thinking about many of the families and individuals that we have helped throughout the years, and one that to me, it's more recent, that describe what Reverend Grubbs, you were describing about keeping the family at the center and working with the family. We had received a referral for a child that, unfortunately, Tom, sometimes I always like to share, like, this type of work is really hard, right? Like when we talk about intense care coordination and helping the community, and Shelley, you were sharing too, like they have such a diverse and such a need that it's really hard work for us to really try to address all the layers of need. And even I see it on my team, like, we take the stress too, like we feel what our community is feeling. And in this case, this was a referral from a child that was terminally ill. And it's really hard when we get referrals like that, because, we are working on access to health, and we want to see, great outcomes. And and in this case was a child in palliative care, and it was referred to us because the family was struggling, and there was a whole team behind already working with the family. There was a team from legal, from the housing, the Department of Public Housing, multiple social workers from different departments across the healthcare. And our CHW, in this case, was a community health worker that started working with the family. What we found was that the mom was struggling mostly because of language barriers. So there was a disconnection between what the mom really found as an urgency for her family to get the needs addressed, and there was a whole team trying to help, but there was a link missing, and that was the CHW. And in this case, in InCK would be the intense care coordinator. That, again, those titles like Shelley was sharing. And in conversations and working with the mom, what we found was that yes, there were a lot of housing needs. There was actually a pest infestation, unfortunately, and the landlord in that case was not being helpful, and that's why legal was involved. And in conversations with the mom, what we found that the most urgent need for the household, even though there were other needs, right? We were dealing with a child that is in palliative care, that needs a lot of healthcare needs in home. Mom needs a lot of support, but the food need was the mom's on top of the list on that layer of need. She was struggling with feeding her other children because she was caring full time for her child. She was, she was 24/7 caring for a child while trying to feed her other child in the household. So it all started with that language barrier that she could not, to the whole team that was trying to help her, she struggled to share, like, in that plan that she had was, first I need to feed my household, I need that food assistance, and then I need help with housing, and then I need a housing that it's also wheelchair accessible, because she had all these needs for the child that she was caring for. So again, just to me, that represents that working in the center, it's the priority, working with the family, working with that caregiver, and really creating a plan to address the most urgent needs with the family. And then, as Reverend Grubbs and others in the community, we know that there's, smaller nonprofit like ourselves, we cannot do it alone. We have that network of resources that we connect with constantly for every family. We refer often from everyone in this call, when we have someone that needs services, we know who can help, and we're that connector, that network that we want to be for the families. But there's unfortunately, so many cases and so many families right now, if anything more now that what we're seeing, after the pandemic, after COVID, the financial struggles right now. So yeah, that's a big one to me, because unfortunately this was a child that wasn't, had really, really delicate care needs.
Yes. I want to.
Tom,
go ahead, please, Melanie.
I would say, to build off what Giselle said, I think it's one of the unique things about InCK is how we're really trying to work together as a network. There's a lot of nonprofits in New Haven, and a lot of times everyone wants their particular territory, and that's just not here. For this, we're really trying to understand what each other's expertise are, so we can have this family in the center. We can have those needs met. I mean, one of our motivations for this work was around a case that really didn't go well. It was a little girl that we had that was 7. She came to us. Her pediatrician had referred her. She had 2 sisters and 2 brothers in the house. They were in pretty unstable housing. There was also a lot of domestic violence issues going on. She was 7. She was still in kindergarten. You know, there was mice and mold in the house, and there were so many issues. And we did get mom to come in, and she came in for the first intake, and she talked to us about all the issues. And then after that, we just couldn't get them back in. Mom wasn't able to get there. There were too many things that were going on, too many issues with multiple kids, and we felt like it was a failure to us. That was a little bit prior to, you know, they weren't even in care coordination yet. We were in intake and trying to find out what the needs were. And ultimately DCF ended up coming into that home and taking those kids. And they were separated. And that was one of our motivations for this work, and making connections. And, you know, there were housing needs, and the little girl also had chronic asthma that caused her to go in and out of hospitalization. There were multiple kids in the home that were, and there was just lots of struggles and lots of violence in the home. So there were lots of ways in which, you know, now sort of Monday morning quarterbacking ways in which we could have done things so much better to be able to have, to be successful with that family and help them address all those needs. And that's what this work is supposed to be doing, is who do we know? Who do we tap into? If you have an issue with your own personal life, or a friend comes to you, you're like, okay, I know somebody that can help you with that. And that's what this is supposed to be. I know somebody that can help you with that, and we're going to sit with you until we get it all figured out.
Excellent. Excellent. Reverend Grubbs, and I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I wanted to add to that really quick what Melanie was just sharing. Part of my role as a CHO is I'm in the community a lot. And I'm at events, I'm canvassing, and we recently run a canvas, and the Department of Health was there. And they have a new program called Healthy Homes, which would have helped this little girl that Melanie's talking about. It would have helped Giselle's little girl. They're grants that people don't know about, and they go in and they make your home healthy, whether it be rodents or fixing a broken stair or lead, mold, all those types of things. And so we as CHOs, we get that information, and ICC would have that same information because they know all those resources, and they could pass that along and help the family. So that's a perfect example of what we do.
Alice, that's a perfect example. Reverend Grubbs and Shirley, Alice West, and Giselle, I wanted to kind of circle back to you, because as I think of you 3 and the number of years that the 3 of you have individually been involved with, I'll use the metaphor, actively loving the community and demonstrating your love for the community. Why did you decide to get involved with this? I mean, you could have just been leading your own life and leading your own organizations and being the success that you are, but I'm curious about the stimulus for you to still kind of link arms with this particular initiative. Reverend Grubbs, I'll start with you.
So what comes to mind immediately is a verse of scripture, that they may have life, but they can have it more abundantly. And I think that's a spiritual endeavor, but it involves many other areas of consideration. As Giselle was talking, it reminded me of something I learned many years ago, which was Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And at the base, it's physiological. Beyond that, there's safety. And then there's the higher level, I'll call order of needs, having to do with how people feel about themselves. Do they love themselves? Do they love their children? Do they have that sense of empathy? Do they feel as if they belong in a community? So many individuals that we see at CCA don't feel as if they're connected to a supportive network, a supportive community. And there are certainly institutions that, in the name of protecting the family, will do things that may tear the family apart. And so how can that connective tissue and level of support be very much a part of this particular program that takes the family to a place of, I'll call it self-actualization. I'll skip over one. But what does it mean to feel as if you are an individual as a parent, that you're taking good care of your children, that you have connections with supported institutions and individuals, so that that ultimate goal is really about improving the quality of life for the family in the various ways that they define, not another institution defines and pushes them into. Because the last time I checked, no one can make us really do anything unless we're willing to do it. And so it's the engagement with the individual head of household or heads of household, so that they feel as if there is not just someone who cares, but someone who will absolutely provide the kind of support and maybe even invite them onto a pathway of connection with institutions and organizations. So after it's all done, they don't have 5 case managers, they have none.
Abolish the need, right? Abolish the need.
Yeah, so that's my take. It's about really, the level of, and at CCA, I'll say one other thing, that we have changed the way in which we are providing services, because we know that the emergency services are really important, but employment and childcare and having a voice and using it are critical to the building the self-esteem of the family and of household, and having a healthy household.
Indeed.
That's right.
And Shirley, in terms of the abolishing the need, or not immediately, but just working toward the pathway to eliminating the problems, what are some of your reflections on why you decided to get involved?
So, I mean, first I want to, thank, Reverend Grubbs for, focusing us on person-centered support, because that's what this is really about, and doing that, and doing that with some, being intentional in doing that. So, in time, when I think about seeing, empowering, and loving our families, and thank you for your how you see us in the community, providing service and support to those individuals in the community that are near and dear. So this is more than just work for me. It's more about really doing something to impact and make a difference, on the quality of life for those in my community. And so one of the models that we continue to honor within our work here at Urban Community Alliance is case management that includes home visiting. So a home visit for us is not to be nosy, judgmental. A home visit represents several things when we, at the initial stage of engaging a family. I think it connects us to the family a little differently. It gives us, as the advocates and the helping professional, the opportunity to see things that we wouldn't see if we just brought that family into the office and did an intake. And it gives us the opportunity to really support families based on what real need. Okay, what the needs are within the family that may not be a part of the grant that we wrote. The goals of the goals and outcomes for the family. It gives us the opportunity to dig much deeper and to support the family in a different way based on what we're seeing or assessing or understanding during that home visit. But more importantly, I think that it gives us the opportunity to empower families to resolve or to improve challenges that really that will be much more impactful in helping them to stand alone when we're no longer there. Right? So if it's a housing issue, then and our advocacy leads someone to better housing, then that's something that they can sustain when we're no longer in that family. That educational program that really improves the quality of education that child will ultimately receive, that's impactful in a long-term way. So the goal the goal for that home visit is much bigger than what I think most of us understand. When we do that, when twice during that intervention, we show up at that home in the beginning and at the end, and we determine how helpful we are or how helpful we were not. So I think those are some of the things that, you know, this collaboration and this partnership will help us to improve upon and provide a different level of access to the children, youth, families, and individuals we serve.
Tremendous. We have about 13 more minutes, so as things cross your mind and just want to issues you still want to discuss that might be burning in your hearts, but certainly we want to talk about future goals and getting the word out in 2023 and how people can get more information. But I guess wanted to Reverend Grubbs and Shirley Ellis West, if you both wanted to share any more about the community benefit, and anybody can kind of comment on this. But what is kind of would be the tangible community benefit? My reporting hat sometimes comes on when you do an article or interview somebody. You're always kind of asked that question, like why is the person or the organization in existence? What's your existential purpose, and what are the solutions? So is it just spending the taxpayer money, or is there or are the citizens going to get a return on the investment? So I just wondered how you saw this particular new collaboration benefiting folks in the future, immediately as well as in the future. And then also, I guess a follow-up question would be what New Haven community needs still need to be addressed. As many of you know, I'm a new alder here in New Haven, and going to the various meetings, it amazes me how the issues still are so unresolved. So it's kind of an open-ended question for everyone, but I just wondered if Reverend Grubbs or anyone else would like to kind of weigh in on that.
I'm going to say hopefully just three things. One is that the way in which we approach our services has less to do with case management, but much more to do with family coaching. So that by the time that the interaction, in whatever way it ends, that the family would be stronger. I mentioned earlier that our idea is to promote independence. Well, none of us is really at that level, but at least there's a higher level of independence and a determination of the family's destiny because of the work that's being done, not just with the heads of household, but the collaboration with other organizations who have much more experience and expertise in areas that CCA does not. So having a partnership that's a level playing field is really, I think, critically important to achieving the goal of supporting the family to that place of care without InCK. If we do our work well, then there will be a tangible and lasting and transformative difference in the quality of life of the individuals that we will be working with over the period of this grant. And I think it would be a model that would be worth replicating, because at the end of the day, just to repeat, we can't be all things to all people, but we can do some specific things to participate in a process so that winning, and I mean winning at the family level, can broaden itself to the community level and in so many other ways that would keep people from being in a crisis situation, being homeless, not having enough money, not having a job that pays a living wage. All of those things are really next steps in this process. And I think it's just critical to be able to think about how do we integrate the services, to use the first word of InCK. How do we work at integrating the services in such a way that families would really increase their level of independence and improve their quality of life? So there wouldn't have to be another one of these, because we've already taken care of, or at least put a system in place where that integration and communication and collaboration can be possible. That's not always easy to be able to achieve, but I think it's worth trying, because why not?
Absolutely. And Melanie, you had mentioned in terms of the Medicaid role and kind of facilitating this interactive process and service delivery. Just maybe explain a little bit about why that's so critical, the Medicaid dollars.
The Medicaid dollars really help with the sustainability part of this. Right now, it's really been, as I think Jen stated in the beginning, all grant funding is how this has been funded before, which, you know, you're, as a nonprofit, you're sort of always holding your breath as to which, if a grant is going to end, what do I have to do to make sure this keeps coming? Having it be Medicaid reimbursable gives just another funding stream for providers. And we worked really hard with this project. I learned so much. I worked in state government for a long time, but it was very eye-opening to me to be a part of a Medicaid process where I realized how important it was that you have the right people at the table when you're trying to even decide what Medicaid authority they're going to use to pay for something. Like, are you leaving people out immediately just by picking a Medicaid authority that requires a provider to have a medical director or an APRN or something like that? So we worked really hard to make sure there was a Medicaid authority for this that was the most inclusive possible. It was one of the ways in which we're really trying to build in equity. As Reverend Grubb says, we can't do this alone. This work is about the relationships, but sometimes you have to make the systems be set up in a way that can encourage the relationship. You have to, and if you're not at the table with the voice, with the right voices at the table to push on those systems to say, no, we don't want to do it the same way that you've been doing it all these years. We want to do it differently. And that was a very powerful thing to be able to sort of, you know, be at the table and debate with DSS around what was really going to be important to make sure that we were inclusive as possible. And we really got to where we needed to be, and we would go back and check things with providers, even in regard to how much the Medicaid reimbursement was going to be for this service. Initially, it was a much lower rate because we were trying to make it fit into the budget that the state gave us. And all the providers said, that's not going to work. It's not going to be adequate. So we went back and we made a much more robust reimbursement. We heard providers when they said, this is reimbursement. How are we even going to get it off the ground? So we found funders that are going to help us fund practice transformation, which means in real, concrete terms that we're able to give them dollars so they can hire people. And that's not a regular occurrence when it comes to work like this, especially when you're working with government. So we worked really hard to do things differently to try to disrupt some of the racist systems, because that's really what it is there's inherent racism built into our systems, and we have to have the right people at the table saying, not today. We're going to do it different today, and we're going to work together. And that's really what's been so invaluable about this is the really listening, because you can ask people and check off the box and say you asked them, but then you don't really do anything to make it different. And we really tried to be responsive to what we were hearing, and we will continue to do that. And I hope that we won't need, as Reverend Grubb says, this InCK thing, but I hope that we are able to work together to create a roadmap for other communities to be able to do this, to make it replicable, to make it sustainable. And it's going to take a lot. This project is currently funded by federal dollars. We're getting state dollars from DCF, who say we know flex funding is really important, because the difference between just case management and care coordination is access to flex funding dollars. That is the difference. That's what makes care coordination, because you're able to immediately respond to families' needs with flex funding dollars that don't have parameters around it. So you can get somebody a washer and dryer real quick, or you can help pay for anything that they need for repairs in the home. And DCF is helping to fund that. We have the Medicaid dollars. We have funding from private foundations that are saying, we're interested in this work. We're interested in this whole family, whole community approach to care. And we're going to put our money where our mouth is. So this is truly a braided and blended funding approach to community services. And it's really exciting to be a part of.
We have about 5 more minutes, and it's so exciting. We're going to have to do another show, Melanie.
But Tom, can I just add to
please,
Melanie? So for a community-based organization, we've been doing these things anyway. I mean, whether so we get a grant, and you're right, we're limited in what we can do in the grant, but because we're advocates and we are in this to support families, we are navigating these types of situations anyway. But we've been doing it without any compensation or any, it becomes a part of the work. So this is an opportunity to have community-based organizations get compensated for something that we've been doing for so many years. And this is the first time that we have the opportunity to get compensated for it in a way where the community-based organization benefits, but more importantly, the family benefits. Because a family comes in, we do a home visit, we see that there's some healthcare, we see that there's a healthcare need here, but because it's not really the focus of what we do, if we stay there, then we don't dig deeper to say, okay, well, it looks like you're having a problem reading this. Well, my eyes are bad, right? And so you just told me that my eyes are bad, but it's really not a part of anything that I'm dealing with right now. So what do I do with that? Well, this is an opportunity to make a referral to those experts and those partners to say, well, Mr. Tom might need a little eye exam here. So what can we do? I mean, so that's the difference in I think this new relationship with CT Inc. and what we're going to be doing for the first time here in New Haven or maybe in Connecticut, that will give greater access to our families, to what they really need, and the community-based organization can now be compensated for that level of work. So I just wanted to add that, and thank you, Melody.
No, thank you for it. We have 3 more minutes. In terms of getting the word out about this it's embryonic, but it's also unfolding and it's manifesting. So Alice, how are we getting the word out about CTA?
We have a wonderful marketing communication team. We started out by building a website. If you just Google CT Inc., it's that simple. We're one of the first, if not second, things that pop up in the server. We have flyers we're going out. As I mentioned, canvassing. We're all over the place. We're in the neighborhoods where people are asking about CMTs and alders, and we're directing them on how to find those people. We're calling, we're making phone calls. We're at community events, food drives, parades. And we're looking at getting something like maybe a newsletter out that would have highlights in it, highlights that our providers do, highlights that are going in the community. And as mentioned earlier, our parent advisory group, which we meet monthly with families in the community, and they advise the things that we're working on. And I think, honestly, they're our biggest way to get word out there. It's an underground network of people talking about us. And finally, beginning of 2023, we will have a letter going out to the above mentioned zip codes. So be on the lookout for that.
And we're going to keep talking until they play the music, until the music means what the show's over. We're going to keep talking. So future goals. Anybody jump in, because the music.
I would love to Alice talked about that in January 2023. We're going to start to reach out to members, and our InCK providers are going to start to provide care coordination services. But really beyond that, you've heard everyone speak to it so beautifully today. The families are at the center. So while we're trying to demonstrate sort of components of the model of assessing needs and care plans and things like that, it's really about the families being at the center, driving the care of what they're identifying, of what they need, so that we can together as providers and community build a network of support for them and come together and really helping to support them navigate care in a seamless way. And to what Reverend Grubb said, in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is to start to feel that connection, to feel held, right? We've got someone for you. And ultimately that is the goal. And to continue to hear from Shirley and Reverend Grubbs and Giselle and other partners of how we can do this better. And that's really that's what we're really looking forward to in future goals, is just to keep hearing from them, keep listening, and keep making those changes.
Great. Who would like to have one or two last words? Quickly, ladies. Anyone?
That should be our North Star.
And the North Star is even before Frederick Douglass. I mean, and it's in the Bible. Just Reverend Grubbs, elaborate when you say the North Star. Should that be our guide, our guiding light? Something that we should just pay homage to. What does it mean to you?
It's a sense of vision, and as long as we keep the vision, you know, that as long as we keep a sense of where it is that we're headed, we won't get tripped up by the small things that happen along the way.
Love it.
Even in the darkness.
That's right.
Ladies, thank you so much. Wishing you both, everyone, kind of a happy holiday season, and really appreciate the opportunity to help get the word out. And anything I can do in 23, I'm looking forward to staying alive and healthy and prosperous myself, so I can do that. So.
And thank you, Tom. Happy holidays and congratulations, Tom, on your new elected official role for Ward 28. Congratulations.
Thank you. As a former alder, you know that's a mixed message, but I'll take the best part of it.
Thank
you for having us, Tom.
Happy holidays. Thank you.
Anytime to
Thank
talk.
you
so much. Happy holidays.
It's been a pleasure.
The music yet? Where's the music?
I know.
This new edition, filling positions, looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains, haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. I'm never gonna give up, fall down, I just gotta